Hello and welcome back to the Rebel Intel channel. I'm your host, Ed Wasson, and I am here today with Dr. Brenda Spencer-Ragland. She is the author of a book that's coming out soon titled Faith Woven with Hope. Welcome, Dr. Brenda Spencer-Ragland. I love you and I'm glad you're here with me.
Well, thank you, Ed. I love you too.
How do you do?
I'm doing good.
And tell us about this book that you got coming out soon.
It is a book that a lot of folks have been on me for years, especially Burl, my husband, about writing. But it's just a collection of stories and how different circumstances in life has led to really reflecting and understanding what was happening, what I learned from it, how it motivated me, but more importantly, how was my faith able to lead me through those situations or those days that I write about.
Outstanding. So tell us about your journey and where you've been and how you've gotten to this point in all of the projects that you're doing now.
How far do you want me to date myself? Because it's a history.
Well, let's start with how you've gotten through with you got your master's and your PhD, and you're now working with this all these faith-based projects right here in Lawton, to include the Centurion Hope Chapel and you got a homeless shelter. She's got a homeless shelter on the outskirts of town. Talk to us through about the time that you transitioned out from serving with the morale, welfare, and recreation with the U.S. Army.
Yeah, absolutely. So I retired in October of 2018 after 33 years of working for the Army. I started my career as a intern, worked my way up through the MWR program, which led to me being over about 38 different programs at any one given time. Everything from prevention programs, social work services, to housing, financial readiness, child care, fitness centers, just a host of programs that the soldiers and families needed in order to help them be resilient in life. So I had that opportunity to serve. It was a fantastic career. So, in October 2018, I retired after 33 years of serving with the Army as a civilian. Made my way up to being a senior civilian, overseeing MWR programs, which, for those that are not familiar with MWR, it is a host of programs that work to provide quality life for soldiers and families while they're at any given duty installation. So for me, it involved bowling, fitness centers, child care centers, social work service programs, Army Emergency Relief, financial readiness, clubs, but also as a housing director. So most of my career, when I came in as a housing management intern, was built on my knowledge base through the housing management career program. So that's where it started. In October 2018, I retired. Ended up working with the Chamber of Commerce for a couple of years, going through accreditation. Then I transitioned into buying my own business, opened up a business, Next Home Tri Covenant Realty. And with it being titled Next Home, that led into a shelter management, because oftentimes where the business is located, you would have homeless individuals walking in and saying, "We're looking for our next home." So, having the heart and the desire to help, that led me into working with them. During this same time, my husband, for years, had been on me about a couple of things in a positive way. One, he challenged me to write down some of the stories throughout my life and write a book, but he also wanted me to pursue my PhD. I ended up getting a doctorate because I wanted to go through. If I'm going to do this, if I'm going to spend 3, 4, 5 years of research, I want it I wanted to mean something to me. So my focus was on the prevention of homelessness for a veteran population. So I'm opening up the business Next Home. I'm studying the prevention of homelessness for a veteran population. In comes the general population. It's very easy for me to accommodate veterans because there's many federal programs, resources, things that are available to help those veterans. Unfortunately, what I found myself struggling when they would walk into my office is helping the ones that had no benefits, no veterans benefits, no federal benefits. Perhaps it's somebody escaping domestic violence. Perhaps it's someone coming out of addiction, even having a criminal background.
Right.
Those were the ones that we were struggling to help.
Right.
And that eventually led to the homeless shelter.
Outstanding. So this is where I've started meeting some of these people, and we're meeting people on the streets, and we're interviewing those folks. They're coming into the churches. We're doing Christmas photos for some of the folks at the one of the treatment centers across the street. Tell us about your book, Faith Woven Through Hope.
Faith woven through hope and conviction it's a cumulative list of stories, and it's how, as I reflect back on my life in different situations that I'm going through or different scenarios throughout the day and how I deal with it, and I look back, what brought me from that circumstance, what brought me from that challenge, and it was my faith. Just the same as pursuing a doctorate. So, as a child, my childhood started off pretty rough. My father was taken from us at an early age. I was 6 years old. I witnessed that. I witnessed him being shot, and it was a very hard time. I had family members that put that protective shield around me, and they just didn't talk about it. They wanted to protect me. But as a young girl, I of course had questions. Why did this happen? I stopped talking to folks because I was concerned if I said the wrong thing, I may end up shot. So dealing with those, what was it that brought me out of those situations that gave me the ability to not just leave that environment when I married, to go on and pursue my master's, to be able to put those goals out in front of me? What was it? And it was my faith, and it was purpose driven. So I wanted to talk about those hard times, but how faith brought me to where I am today, and it allowed me to excel. In fact, you've interviewed Shelby.
Right.
And what's interesting, Shelby and Brandy came to me at Next Home, and they were transferring here to Lawton. They were looking to provide support to Catalyst, to drug and alcohol recovery.
Right.
They came in and they shared their story and said, you may not want to rent to me, you may not want to help me. They had been in trouble, prison,
Right.
drugs, credit not so good. And what I seen was honesty. What I seen was vulnerability. They were willing to trust me with their story. And I sat there and I said, if they're willing to trust me with this information about their life and be as open and as honest, I'm going to help them. God brought them to me for a purpose, to help them.
Right.
So we get them into a house, beautiful home, and they're doing quite well. Shelby comes back one day and he says, Brenda, I wanted to ask, where do you go to church? And I said, my husband was a deacon at First Baptist in Medicine Park. We visit First Baptist East. And I said, there's churches all around. And he said, I don't know, but he said, I'd like to go, but I'd also like to see the folks that I'm working with be introduced to faith opportunities. And that it struck me. But it struck my husband even harder, and he was praying about it. And he walked out one day and he said, I need you to buy that building next door. Why are we buying that building next door? And he said, you need to open a church. I said, well, number one, that building's not for sale. And he said, well, it will be. And I said, excuse me? He said, well, I've been praying about it. We need to buy that building, open a church. I said, okay, wise one. So I called the owner and I said, if you ever decide that you want to sell the building next door, would you let Burl and I know? He has it in his mind that we need to buy this building and open a church. And the gentleman said, Michael, he said, well, I wasn't thinking about selling it, but I'll sell it to you. And that's what brought the church, Centurion's Chapel, together. And we provide the facility. The pastor provides the spiritual training, the ministry, and it's, when you come in here, it's phenomenal. My husband's been in church his entire life. I've been in church. I've taught Bible school, but there's nothing like Wednesday night sitting and listening to how these folks that are in active recovery, how they take scripture and apply it back to their life.
Yeah.
And that reinforced right in the book.
Wow.
Faith woven with hope and conviction.
We've got this awesome facility here now. It's one of the better churches I've ever seen for a church of its size in this area. And we have interviewed the pastor, Scott Patton. He's in one of the episodes, one of our previous episodes there on YouTube. How do you feel about all this? How's this making you feel? Pretty accomplished, I'm betting.
Tired.
Tired?
No, it's good. And it's not me, it's all God.
Yeah.
First off, it's all God. Because, I couldn't do this alone. So again, that goes back to the faith. It's the same thing with the shelter. When the shelter came to me, it came to me in such an interesting way. December 31st, I'm working on my dissertation. I'm still in my doctorate program, so I'm working on my dissertation. The phone rings. It's one of the police officers here in town. Asked if I knew of any shelters that could help a lady out with 6 kids that was sitting down on Lee Boulevard. And I said, well, have you tried C. Carter Crane? And they said, we have, but they're not open. Have you tried Family Promise? We have, but they're not open. And I said, well, it's 8:30 at night. And he said, yeah, she has nowhere to go. So I said, let me call my son Steve, see if he'll ride with me. If he will, it's December 31st, New Year's Eve. Didn't want to go out alone, not sure what I would get into. So called Steve. We went down there, and sure enough, there was a mom with 6 kids on the corner of Lee Boulevard. We got them situated and eventually got them into an apartment, but it was about the 4th of January of 2024. I called C. Carter Crane, and I just so happened to get Sylvia. She was over there doing some cleaning, and I asked Sylvia, I said, hey, are you guys open? And she said, no, we're closed. We will not be back open until the end of February is what they're telling us. But, ma'am, we're going to be closing permanently. And I said, what do you mean you're closing permanently? You're the only shelter in town. And she said, we're closing down. They're dissolving Great Plains Improvement. I thought, that cannot happen. How can we be in a community with no shelter? So, and at this time, we were actually helping, on average, I'd say 5 to 6 individuals a week connect to housing. Many of them were low income. Many of them were coming out of homelessness. And it was really quite sad. So I make some phone calls, get in contact with the board, go present to the board, telling them the need that I was seeing. We had to keep this shelter. I had individuals come to my office that got knowledge that I was trying to advocate for the shelter to remain open. Mm-hmm. They asked me to let it close. And I said, that's not me. In fact, I've seen some of the people that are in the shelter or that need shelter space. You can't just leave them out on the streets. So we're praying about it. I'm talking to Burl about it. I'm talking to Glenn, one of my best friends. We're talking about it. At this point, Glenn was still telling me, and Burl were telling me, don't take the shelter. Don't take the shelter.
Yeah.
I'm still praying on it. July 15th, I wake up. Shelter's due to close. I wake up and I'm crying. And my husband said, why are you crying? I said, the shelter's going to close today. And I don't know what's going to happen to these people. I said, I've been praying about it and I haven't got an answer. And he said, at that time, he said, you've got your answer. Mm-hmm. You just need to accept it, step out on faith. And I said, okay, wise one. What do you mean I've got my answer? He said, you need to take the shelter, step out on faith. He said, that's what you tell us to do. So we took the keys to the shelter on July 15th of 2024. And we've housed 145 individuals from the shelter into permanent housing. And the stories are amazing.
Outstanding. And ma'am, how do you fund your efforts and projects here? And when we get these questions, and I know they're going to come in from other communities, how might they start some kind of programs in their communities?
So we are privately funded. We receive no city, state, federal funds for the shelter. We started off stepping out on faith with providing some funding to get it going. Utilities, insurance is outrageous. Insurance, it's a World War II building, so it's what, 80 years old.
Right.
and an 80-year-old building that was built in World War II for 5 years is a little expensive. But we stepped out, took on the shelter, had a fire inspector walk through, got it prepared, got our maintenance list. Vendors came in and helped me. They dedicated time and resources to help me get it up to par. And then as we were funding it privately, donors started coming in. It was actually a couple weeks after I took on the shelter. I was sitting at my desk again. I'm working on my dissertation, and I put together some draft budgets thinking, how am I going to sustain this shelter? Now that I've taken the keys and I'm seeing the need, how am I going to sustain it? The utility bill had come in. It was quite high. Insurance was $16,000 a year, just different expenses. So I'm sitting there and, I thought, my scripture, my Bible tells me to take care of the widows, to take care of the hungry, to take care. It doesn't say go to city council. It doesn't say to go to the federal government. It says, as Christians, believers, we are to take care of our brothers and our sisters when they're in need. So with that thought, I started thinking, how many churches are there here in the Lawton community? So I counted up like 114 initially. I thought, well, based on this draft budget, I only need 100 to come in at $1,000 a year. That led to the Faith Challenge. A good friend of mine who happens to be the county commissioner just that time called, Johnny Owens. He said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm sitting here working on a budget thinking, how am I going to fund this shelter for the long term so it never has to face closure again? And I thought, how about a faith challenge? Going back to the churches, going back to the community, asking individuals to pledge $1,000 a year to keep the shelter open. And he said, that's a God thing. He said, that came to you through your faith, which again leads to the faith woven with hope and conviction. So I go ahead and put the faith challenge out there, and I'm somewhat of a Facebook ninja. I have friends all over the country, so it's easier for me to go on Facebook and do updates and let people read it versus writing letters or cards. So I'll do Facebook posts, and I go out and I put it out on Facebook, and I said, all I need is 100 individuals, $1,000 a year. First year, I came in at 114. This year, I'm already up to 88, and I will have my 100, I believe, well before Christmas. Our year starts on the 15th of July. That's when I run it, and we are funded. We're keeping our expense. Of course, I don't receive any funds from it. I have since been able to hire an executive director. You've interviewed with him,
right? Yep.
Jose.
Yeah, we talked to Jose yesterday.
Yeah, I've got Jose and I've got Sylvia and a case manager now, and it's all been funded by private individuals in businesses that believe in what we're doing.
Outstanding.
Locally funded.
So what are your final thoughts and your closing thoughts and your ultimate messages for anybody out there that's in any position, whether they're homeless, they're facing addiction or any other troubles, or whether they're wanting to try to start something to help others, or whether they're in the military or out of the military, transitioning, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters? What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, don't assume that homelessness is a result of only because of addictions or someone not wanting to work. I've seen individuals, the majority of my clients are 67 years old, and they're trying to live on limited income, Social Security. They've got expenses with medical, medicines, rent, insurance, different things that come with just trying to maintain a home or maintain a life. So oftentimes it's economic. I do have those that face addiction. We are a faith-based shelter, so we connect our individuals that come in that have addictions and that need support. We connect them to Catalyst or to Tunnel Vision, and we allow them to stay in their area and focus on the addiction. We provide the transitional shelter. You know, it's if you ask Brenda, are you on a mission to solve homelessness? No. I'm on a mission to support individuals to come out of homelessness. I'm on a mission to make sure people understand that there is hope and that there are people that care. I believe that homelessness will be with us for the long term. We'll see it each and every day. Can we reduce it? Absolutely. When folks enter homelessness, can we help them get out of it? Absolutely. But we must connect them to mental health support. We must connect them to addiction recovery programs. We must work together collaboratively. I said that kind of crazy, but you know, we've got to collaborate with other partner agencies so that we can come together as a community to resolve the issues that we face with homelessness. You know, domestic violence, adverse childhood experiences, all the social issues that we face in this world can lead someone to that homeless situation. Life can lead you there, you know. And we just got to make sure that we have a network of support where we can connect individuals and get them the help that they need. And we can do it. We can do it as a community. We can do it here in Lawton. We can do it in Southwest Oklahoma, Texas, wherever you are, whatever community, you can do it, but you must work together.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Brenda Spencer-Ragland.